immutable. The money is decentralized. The genesis locked at the edge of the mempool. We are decoding Bitcoin's signal in the noise. Privacy, self-custody, censorship resistance. Welcome to the revolution. This is OnChain Revolution.
Welcome back to OnChain Revolution. My name is Yagobi, and I am the host of this channel and show. Welcome back to all my audiences. Welcome back to my TikTok audience here, as well as Abstract. Abstract is changed some things up here, so trying to get that going again. But I want to make sure that that audience can really get connected here. So hopefully this works. But everybody's freaking out because Bitcoin is looking like it was going to tank, right? That was what seemed like was happening, right? We got up to almost 70,000 yesterday, and then overnight, as the war escalated, Bitcoin pulled back to 66,000. So are we going to go to 60,000? Are we going back to the 200-day MA? That is the question, right? That is the question. And my answer and my stance is no, I don't think so. You can tell by some of the ETF inflow that momentum has changed a bit from the institutional side. And as we've noticed in 2025 and parts of 2026, institutions really control the price of Bitcoin, right? So is that something that is going to continue? Are we going to be able to kind of get through the this kind of scare from like the war escalating? We can see other markets today, all of the financial markets kind of together crashed in a sense, right? But Bitcoin and crypto is starting to rebound a little bit. So we'll get into that. And then we're going to get into some other topics as well around the cryptoverse. We're going to hit on some of the positive sentiment I was talking about, right? We'll touch on the ETF inflows again, and then we'll also talk about basically, AI and where it's heading, right? We'll talk about how many downloads or installs that Openclaw has had that's passed, JavaScript React in these, programs that have historically just been extremely popular. And why does that matter for crypto? Because everything that AI is advancing at right now ties back into crypto because of the way that the payment rails are going to work for these agents, right? So we'll get into that. We'll also get into some situations to where the workforce can change, and then some of these miners as well, they're opening the door to selling their Bitcoin stockpile. So that's a little bit worrisome. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. And then we also have at 10:30 Central amazing guest Fonzie, which is the founder of Ordinal Hive, on the show, and he's going to get into a couple of questions that I have for him, why they continue to build in the Bitcoin ecosystem as it's slowed down, as well as what maybe his thoughts are about the future of the ecosystem, and just kind of, dig into the mind of one of the larger marketplaces for Ordinals and Bitcoin Fungibles in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So that'd be a fun one. Have your questions ready for when he comes in at 10:30 Central. So it should be a fun one today. Put your questions and comments in the chat, and I'll get to those for sure. But before we start off anywhere, if you guys can help me out on the YouTube side, smash that like for me, and then also subscribe to the channel if you like my content. And on the X side, let's share the space. Let's share the space. Let's get as many people in here as possible, so we can educate and learn together, right? That is the biggest point of this show. Finally, Abstract went through. Goodness gracious, that was frustrating. All right, let me make sure that Zora is here too, and then we will be good to go. Perfect. All right, so if you guys could help me out on all of the platforms, shout out to Rumble as well. I love doing this every single day, connecting with you guys and learning together. But before the market pulse, which is how we start every show, let's start off with a little bit of war update. I know that doesn't sound great, but I think it's important for us to kind of get a feel of what's happening with that situation, right? So this is an article from CNN, and it's a running update here. And it's live updates from U.S.-Israeli war with Iran. So let's kind of talk about what's been happening. Let me actually give this a little quick refresh here. We got a couple comments in the chat here. OCM Fever says GM OCM Fever. We got Almond Joy as well. And says GM. And then Merle Jones. Hey, y'all, go be any news on Merle? I've reached out to their team, the Merlin team. They're away for the Chinese New Year still, I imagine, but I haven't heard anything back. And then also it says you should run a 3-minute countdown to make sure everything is connecting correctly. Yeah, I will do that. That's a good suggestion there. You know what? I'm going to do that starting tomorrow. So I appreciate that. And then we got GM from Superfan coming in. Excited about tomorrow's segment. So if you guys are regulars of the channel and the show, every Wednesday we do an AI segment that specializes on AI, right? And then Big Noodle is on for that segment at 10:30 Central every single Wednesday. But let's get back into this article here. And I refreshed it. So it says what to know on the 4th day of the U.S.-Israelis war with Iran. Goes in to say Israel sent troops into Lebanon on the 4th day of the conflict here, as some of Iran's Gulf neighbors warned that its retaliatory fire could draw them into a widening war in the Middle East. That's not going to be good if this extends out, right? And then it goes on to say Americans are being urged to leave 14 countries in the region. So, hey, that's kind of like that next level of escalation. I mean, they were already kind of sending these alerts out for U.S. citizens to, leave before, right, whenever it's happening. But, they're continuing to just warn the citizens there, which makes sense. But, it's serious when that happens. And then President Trump has defended the war as the last best chance to address the threat posed by Iran's ballistic missiles and nuclear program. 6 U.S. troops have been killed, hit by Iranian fire in Kuwait. That sucks. And then it says the Iranian Red Crescent said that at least 787 people have been killed in Iran, but reports inside the country suggest the toll is more likely in the thousands. Whew. So, yeah, that's kind of where we are, right? So it does seem like it's not a quick, an event that just is going away really quick. So we will probably be dealing with this at least for, I would imagine the next month or so, till it fizzles out, or maybe it continues on. Hopefully it won't be a situation like Russia and Ukraine, as that was kind of draining on the markets for a bit. Eventually the markets did get callous to it, right? There's this second part right here. It just says Amazon says drones struck 3 Middle East data centers. So Amazon has data centers in the Middle East. So now the business of the U.S. is getting affected now, as well as these data centers are getting hit as well. So it trickles out, right? And that's kind of why we started to see this situation here, right? And you see that basically the markets are not happy about what's happening here, right? You see that starting at in the stock market, the S&P has pulled back 1.73% here. The NASDAQ has pulled back 1.8%. You got the Dow Jones pulling back 1.97%, about 2%. And the VIX is up about 30%, 28% here. The VIX is up. So volatility is screaming at this point. So very, very volatile, and people are jittery, right, with what could potentially happen with this escalation. The Russell is down about 3%. So risk on now is getting hit harder. And there was a weird situation, about 2 weeks ago, where the Russell wasn't getting hit as bad, right? And so the Russell is pretty much on par for what should be happening, where risk on is getting hit harder. It's down 2.6%. You got the Magnificent Seven down 1.3%. Nvidia's pulled back 1.67%. Google's pulled back 2.17%. Apple down 0.8%. Tesla down about 3 points there, and then Netflix down 0.48%. So the stock market is definitely not loving what is happening here. That is for sure. A couple of other comments here. Merle Jones says, was there a fallout between OnChain Revolution and Merlin? No, there wasn't a fallout. Jeff is an awesome guy in my eyes and stuff like that. But I will say the overall markets that did take a hit, I think people are just trying to kind of see what the next move is for a lot of these projects. So that's my assumption. That's my speculation. Again, they're all on kind of like the Chinese New Year vacation there. And then myself says crazy times. It is crazy times indeed, for sure. Crazy times indeed. And then Glasshopper, I always say Grasshopper. Glasshopper says, "What's up? Forgot it was a weekday." Yes, I know it is Tuesday. It just started yesterday, so we got some days left before the weekend, right? But I guess that's how the bear market works. People are just excited to get to the weekend, which makes sense here, right? All right, let's get into some news here a bit. Well, we'll hit on some of these key economic events as well. This morning at 8:15, the ADP employment numbers should have come out. So that's the public sector, right? And the projection looks like the median forecast is 50,000 jobs, right? And previous, so let me make sure this was correct. No, Wednesday, sorry. The median forecast is 48,000 jobs, and the previous month was 22,000, right? So we don't have that number out just yet. For some reason, it's either delayed or something here. But yeah, so maybe that's Pacific time right here. So it might come out here in about 4 minutes. Usually I thought this was Eastern. It is Eastern time here. So we'll see if this actually matches, but that is a big increase from January, right? What the projections is. So I don't know. I think that might be a little tough. So we might see, this affect a little bit of, the markets here in the next couple hours, but that is what is on the economic calendar. Tomorrow, jobless claims comes out in the morning. And then Friday, we have the unemployment report, right? The unemployment rate coming out on Friday morning. All right. Now let's get into some news because we got to cover some things here before Fonzie jumps in, which is going to be a fun segment here. All right, so we'll hit on the inflows. So this is one of the reasons why I feel like, the Bitcoin is not going to necessarily fall into this, heading directly back to 60,000K or 60K, the 200 moving average necessarily right now. I think, later on down the line, after we potentially get a spring kind of energy for pricing and things like that for uptrend for Bitcoin and crypto, we could see an attempt to revisit those areas. But what I'm seeing with the ETF inflows is this is, I think, like the 4th or 5th day in a row. So ETF flows, BTC, ETH, Solana, and XRP spot ETFs saw net inflows on March 2nd, which was yesterday. So you're seeing Bitcoin with 458.2 million that is still inflowing, so that around that number has been kind of like the average over the past week, right? And you can see ETH as well. So it's been going up. I would say, I think the highest I saw it was 530 million for Bitcoin. So it's pulled back a little bit here. ETH is at 38.7 million. And then you got Solana at 17.4 million. XRP's picked up a bit. XRP was kind of chilling around the 3 to 4 million. Now we're sitting at about 7 million with the ETF inflows. So that is definitely looking better there. Myself says, I can't find a single centralized exchange that'll let me withdraw privacy coins without KYC. Yeah, I think that's probably a sign, myself, that they're going to be strict on that because now the government and regulations and stuff is coming in. Dr. Min says, GM Dr. Min. And then myself says, Magic Eden ain't bullish on the Bitcoin ecosystem anymore. And he says, kind of BS that. Yeah, I mean, look, Magic Eden, I think they really over leveraged their position probably, and this is just speculation on my side, of how much success they had early on with Bitcoin ordinals and fungibles, and maybe they gambled a little bit too much on innovation and I don't know exactly what their books look like, right? But they had to do this for a reason, in my opinion. They were probably feeling like they were getting thin pretty quick, right? So, but we'll get into that a little bit more later once we're talking to Fonzie a little bit too, because we're going to get into Ordinal Hive and what his platform offers to the Bitcoin ecosystem. All right. So with the inflows, that's one of the reasons why I feel like Bitcoin won't necessarily just crash to 60,000, right? But also we are seeing like more positive sentiment from retail as well, right? So institutions in their client base are buying more Bitcoin because we see the net positive inflows. But also, this from Cointelegraph, it says Bitcoin positive sentiment hits its highest level since February 6th, which isn't too long ago, but almost a month. And it says as BTC rallies 7% and nearly breaches 70,000 per Santiment. Man, I wish that they could change their name. I hate that name, Santiment, for some reason. It's weird. But anyways, and it says, as Bitcoin nearly breached 70K yesterday, right? So, the entire market is responding today. So I feel like that is kind of why Bitcoin has to kind of join that situation to where we're pulling back. But up until yesterday, while other financial markets weren't necessarily responding well, Bitcoin responded pretty well for having like the first day after the weekend where the conflict started, right? And so we'll see if this positive sentiment can continue. What I think could stop it is if the conflict ends up like really escalating to where you're talking about a lot of damage happening in terms of U.S. military base that's in one of the countries that they're friendly with, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait actually gets bombed or something like that. And then the retaliation has to escalate from the US. And then that's where I think Bitcoin can really lose its momentum. So yes, we do have to continually, and see if that gets worse. But as of right now, the sentiment it's still a little bit in the positive for Bitcoin and crypto. All right, let's hit on this here. One thing is that gold that I was when we looked at the overall markets a second ago, gold right here was pulling back pretty significant, right? 4%, but it's still over 5,100, right? So let's kind of talk about what the perception is with gold from the overall markets. And it says global gold funds are on track to shatter records with 148 billion in annualized inflows so far in 2026, surpassing last year's record of 101 billion. So gold continues to show strength, although today it is pulling back a bit more aggressively than Bitcoin and Ethereum. It still has that consistent pickup that it's had really all of 2025, and kind of how it started this year as well, right? I mean, this year it started really, really strong as well. So I think as long as gold remains above 5,000, that it'll probably continually pick back up. But today is definitely pulling back, and we'll see if some of that profit taking flows into Bitcoin, because again, you cannot ignore the fact that the ETFs are getting more bullish. That is something that we have to pay attention to, because institutions are the main reason why Bitcoin got to 126,000. It definitely wasn't retail. We talked about how retail in 2025 sold 700,000 Bitcoin while institutions acquired 825,000, right? So we'll see if gold has this continued push up, but also if this profit taking flows back into Bitcoin here. All right, let's hit on some Bitcoin price action for the day. We'll hit on the hour chart to see how we're doing for the rest of today, heading into tomorrow, as well as the 4 hour, and then crypto bubbles. And in about 10 minutes, we'll have Fonzie join us, and we'll get into some Bitcoin ecosystem talk. All right. So let's start off here on the hour chart and see what we're doing. See if we can get a feel of where Bitcoin is heading for the next 2 to 4 hours. So on the hour chart, the MACD is showing that we are wanting to come out of sell pressure, right? You can see the fast line right here about to cross over that orange line, which means once that actually happens, once they connect, that means we are officially out of the sell session, a pressure session, right? We'll go into buy pressure here. Now, this morning, what started to happen was we saw Bitcoin kind of pull back from yesterday, yesterday it was trying to knock on 70K and it got all the way down to like 66,000, but now it's on its way back. We're sitting at 68,332. So is Bitcoin going to kind of be the anomaly where it sticks out while these other markets are getting pummeled, right? I mean, the entire stock market is getting pummeled here. And then gold and silver also getting pummeled. Gold down 4%, silver down almost 7%. While Bitcoin is coming back here, only down 0.58%. So very, very interesting what's happening here. All right. What I'm seeing here on these momentum indicators is for the MACD wants to come out. The stochastic also wants to come out. The stochastic RSI for Bitcoin on the hour chart sitting at 60.79. So we're past that halfway point. It looks like it wants to head to the overbought territory, which, the sound of that can be a bit misleading. Just because it crosses over that territory doesn't mean that it's extremely overbought, right? Like we're going to reverse. No, it can hang out here for a bit, especially if the momentum is there with the MACD, right? So we got to correlate those. Now, we're sitting in two pretty strong hour candles here for Bitcoin. But I feel like it's a little different because we're bouncing back as the other financial markets are struggling. So we could see some movement here. If we get back to 69,000, we could see Bitcoin get a bit froggy here, maybe try to attempt that $70,000 resistance again, right? That is somewhere that we haven't been able to get past. If you go back to really, I mean, there was a wick back in February 25th, but if you talk about candles that finished above 70K, you got to go back to the 15th, so the middle of last month, right? And that was actually coming down. So that was more of the last price point that we were above 70,000 there, right? So can it happen today? It can. It would be a little weird though, just because, like I mentioned, the other financial markets are struggling. But again, Bitcoin's bouncing back here. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to come out of this sell pressure and have a little bit of a sideways uptrend for the next 2 to 4 hours. I wouldn't be shocked we get back to 69. Maybe we get a little playful and try to attempt heading towards 70,000 again. We'll see what happens. You saw this leg yesterday to where it made two strong clear hour candles yesterday. And I felt like it was the best chance for it to finish a candle above 70,000, which it wicked above it briefly, but didn't finish above it, right? So can we do that today, tomorrow? We'll see. All right. So that is Bitcoin on the hour chart. Let's take a look here at the 4 hour to see what's happening for the next 2 to 3 days, if we can get any insight. And you got to remember, with what's happening with the conflict in Iran, this could be it's going to be volatile, right? So just because we're seeing these momentum swings or like forecasts from these indicators doesn't mean it can't go the opposite way, right? But the 4 hour right now is saying it wants to continue to go up, right? It's showing strength again on the MACD, as well as the stochastic stopping kind of almost a little bit below that midpoint here. So we'll see if the 4 hour plays out, but 4 hour looks okay. It doesn't look like it's ready to give up the buy pressure session just yet. And then let's go into the daily here. The daily looks pretty decent, wants a continuation of this buy pressure hanging out here. Now, we have been in overbought since the 13th, so we got to take that into consideration. Again, though, we're in March, and March typically gives us this spring energy, whether it's going to be in the beginning, middle, or end. There's going to be a certain time period to where we get a pump, most likely, right? Does it start now? It would be weird timing because of the conflict, but Bitcoin is definitely showing some strength here. All right, let's get into Ethereum real quick. All right, ETH on the hour chart. ETH is showing strength here. Very similar to Bitcoin, wants to come out of this sell pressure, go into buy pressure. We'll see if ETH can kind of head more towards the 2030, 2050 mark today, but it is back above 2000 right now. The 4 hour looks like it wants to come out of this very quick sell pressure that was in. We'll see if Bitcoin does continually go up and Ethereum follow it, because that's exactly what's been happening anyways. And then on the daily, very similar situation, right? So ETH is really following Bitcoin. Again, no new news there. Typical behavior of ETH. All right, let's take a look at the crypto bubbles here. In the top 100, we got River bouncing back strong, up 28.4%. For those that don't know what River is a kind of like a a platform where you can DCA Bitcoin, Ethereum, all those type of, it's a, in a sense, kind of like a centralized exchange. I think they do stuff on chain as well. So, but it's a lot of people use it for DCAing. If you're interested in that, there's a link that I have in the description there, but it's up 28.4%. You got XDC bouncing up about 5%, MNT up 3.6%, and Near Protocol up about 4%. Morpho bouncing up 1%. You got Chills up 3.2%. Outside of that, everything is red. Everything is pulled back. Everybody's scared, it looks like. You see Meme Core pulling back 9.4%. Pump pulling back 7.6%. Stable pulling back 6.1%. Tau pulling back 3.8%. And Tau's been pretty strong as of late. You got Cardano pulling back 5% here. HBAR pulling back 4.4%. And Ethereum pulling back 2.4% there. And what else do we have in the top 100? Pepe pulling back 3.5%, and Ondo, RWA stuff pulling back here. Pippin pulling back 16.8%. So just like I mentioned before, Pippin is one of those extremely volatile AI meme coins. It's back down to 460 million. This thing was at 890, I want to say Friday, maybe heading into the weekend. So just, yeah, that's why I always kind of warn about Pippin, but that's just me noticing that it is extremely volatile. All right, in the top 200, Power is down 60.4%, and Power has a token unlock of around $23.4 million. I believe it's on the 10th, so maybe people are preparing for that. I'm not sure, but there's a decent size unlock coming out of that. And then you got VVV pulling back 8.4% there. Monad pulling back 5%, Barra pulling back 6.1%. And then some of the stuff that's pulled up, you got XPL jumping up 5.1%, Lombard up 8.1%. Lombard also has an unlock, so just know that as well, but it's up today. Telcoin is down 5.3%. I think I hit on Monad already. And then Pulse X is pulled back about 4% here. Stacks Bitcoin pulling back 1.3%. The stuff that's pulled up, though, XPL Plasma Coin, which is backed by Tether, up 5.1%. And yeah, so Frax up 1.5%. So everything in the top 100 to 200 is also pulling back quite a bit. On average, too, it's about 5 to 8% here. So that is what we got there. All right. Let's jump into a little bit more news, but I think there was maybe a couple comments. Yeah, let's see what these comments were here. Merle Jones says, do you think Magic Eden quit the marketplace game because it's so easy to vibe code a marketplace and undercut the leaders? I don't think that that's necessarily why, although that is kind of a true statement. I think that they don't want to wait for the Bitcoin ecosystem to have a resurgence, right? They maybe they feel like their bottom line was just too cooked for them to continue to wait. And it seems like what they're doing is they're moving, into a gambling application, and then going back to Solana for the NFT marketplace. I'm not sure. To me, it does seem like this is a complete overhaul of what their business model has been the past 2-3 years, and a little risky when you're going full into gambling. Maybe they're gonna leverage heavily into the agent side and hope that they get a ton of agent business. I don't know. We still don't know what the agent economy is going to look like when it's like really strong. Because as of right now, I feel like it's so early. It is very, very early. Myself says they ditching all EVM blockchains too. Did they forget ETH has more TVL than all chains together? Yeah, that's why I'm saying that. Like, I feel like this is kind of like a life preserver type of situation, which actually maybe that's a bad example, because usually when you try to grab a life preserver, it's safe, right? So maybe it's just kind of like going all in or something, right? On this gambling application, because I agree. I think that they put probably a good amount of investment into the Magic Eden wallet, right? That is was almost all chains, right? And then they discontinued that as well. So it's just look, it's not an easy bear market. It was to be honest, for all alts, it was a horrible bull market, and it's been a hard bear market. Bitcoin was an anomaly with a couple other coins, but like you had to guess it perfectly. And there were so many businesses that were relying on some sort of bull market that would give them excess capital, right? And that just didn't happen. In fact, it went the other way, which is why a lot of businesses didn't make it and a lot of projects didn't make it. But the ones that did, I think you got to take note. There's Emblem Vault, there's Sats Terminal, Ordinal, Hive. That means they have good management of runway, right? And I think that's a great quality you have to have like a leader of a company and CEO, right? So we're going to get into some discussions about that here in a second as well. And then Merle Jones says there's no smart contracts for Bitcoin, so I could vibe code an Ordinals marketplace in an hour. Sure, you could, but it's not about that. There still needs to be motion. Now, if someone like Thread Guy did something, then I think that would, that could work. But if you're, you still have to have a marketing aspect. There's other marketplaces out there, right? All right, these last two questions right here, and it says, man, some companies completely lose foresight when liquidity is 100%, 1,000%. And then Merle says, is Magic Eden worried about NFTs and Ordinals will not come back, gambling and AI? Yeah, I mean, sure, but it's also gambling and AI, right? Like I think if you put all of your eggs in a basket at this point, that's not necessarily a good situation, unless it's something that you've really built into like a community. You've built a community, you grow around them, you try to educate people consistently. But awesome questions. Keep them coming. Keep the comments and questions coming into the chat, and we will get to them for sure. But I'm going to bring up Fonzie, which is the founder of Ordinal Hive. Ordinal Hive is a Bitcoin, Ordinals, and Fungible token marketplace. So let's welcome Fonzie to On-Chain Revolution. What is up, Fonzie? How are you, sir?
Yo, how's it going, Yagovi? Doing well. Good so far. Good podcast. I think I agree with like the bear market stuff and the bull stuff approach. Every time I come here, it seems like there seems to be like something going on every single week or every that specific month, whether it's geopolitical, Bitcoin related. So the action never stops. That's for sure.
Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, geopolitical and Bitcoin ecosystem is all happening right now, right? You got a big mover like Magic Eden, or well, at least they were moving out of the space. But before we dive into that, I'd love for you to kind of reintroduce yourself to maybe some of the audience that doesn't know what Ordinal Hive is and who you are.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. So Fonzie here. So we built a serve trading terminal for Ordinals and other fungible assets on Bitcoin. And so the purpose was exactly for this, right? Like we wanted to build something that can exist forever in a decentralized way. It's peer-to-peer, and doesn't really need a centralized source or entity to kind of maintain it itself. So like obviously anything you can do on Magic currently you can do on this platform and more. So that's quite exciting. And there's also some like very important, like really bullish updates and stuff that we're working on in the background, and some announcements we'll have later this week as well with some other partners. But in essence, yeah, I think when people were messaging, commenting on the specific post regarding Magic and like what we're going to trade spreadsheets, like you don't have to do that anymore. Like I think there's been platforms here that exist in the Bitcoin space already that can do everything Emmy can do and more. So quite frankly, for us, like we see the next generation of trading be quite different than the past 4 or 5 years. And so we're building towards that. We built something very solid, something very fast execution layer directly on Bitcoin, where you don't have to give custody of your funds or your Ordinals or your fungible tokens, right? So that's quite exciting. And I think over the course of this, obviously this kind of like segment here, we'll kind of dive in and discuss more of the features and serve our goals and how they align with the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Yeah, and I've known you for almost 2 years now. I met you for the first time in person at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville, and that was, I think, summer of 2024. But we interacted before that, well before that, right? So you've been building in this ecosystem for over 2 years, and there's probably a lot of people that might be thinking, like, why did Fonzie continually build here? What was the thing that kept you going? Because there was a lot of people that pivoted, or a couple people stayed for sure. But how would you answer that question?
Yeah. And I can't believe it's been 2 years since Nashville. I feel like, that was such different times than we are now. I think at the time, Trump was just getting ready to run for office and whatnot. So, yeah, no, but I think one thing that's consistent about our sort of thesis is that we do see Bitcoin as the end liquidity hub for everything. And the excitement around TradFi, the excitement around the potential to utilize kind of different frameworks, different networks, AI networks as well, was always appealing to us, right? And so where can we navigate? Which specific ecosystem can we navigate to maximize its potential? And obviously, it's always led to Bitcoin. I think that's been a solid answer so far. And so what's kept us building in the specific space, obviously, has been that thesis along with the community. During these times, you see how strong this community is. It's very supportive, very smart community too, right? I think there's lots of people who've been deploying their own apps, and I think if we kind of take the ecosystem as a whole, I don't know if there's any other ecosystem out there that's as active as we are in terms of building developments and even just pushing the boundaries of what's possible, right? Especially with how Bitcoin has been coded and created, right? So the limitations don't exist as they once did 2 years ago. And so for us, we want to build a product that's here in the foreseeable future. Users can use, right? They don't have to serve wonder if we're going to be here a year from now, 2 years from now. It exists. It's built directly on Bitcoin, and it's decentralized, so anyone can access it. We talked about open sourcing it as well, potentially, so users can obviously build upon that as well, and kind of rest assured that we sort of maintain this product as one of our crown jewels per se. But for us, that consistent sort of thesis with the community and just the future of where we see the ecosystem going in general, especially with really nice projects coming out, I think there's no better place to be in or build.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on some things there with community and camaraderie, and I've been a part of your Thursday spaces for a long time now, right? And I want to address a comment here. It was from Merle Jones. It says, is this a paid segment? If so, can you confirm that it's being disclosed clearly? Is not a paid segment. Fonzie and I have worked together to try to educate people for a long time, and I'm going back to that spaces, right? And so they why have you continually done that? Why do you feel like it's important to continually build community here? Because that seems to be an important thing for you.
Yeah, and actually going back to that comment too, I think even before coming here as well, one thing I told Yagobi was, if you think our product is not good, don't have me on, right? I want you to test it. I want you to use the product. I want you to really tell me if it's shit. If it is don't have me on, right? Otherwise, kind of use it. Let me know your thoughts. And that's been the feedback we've been operating the last 2 years with our users. We have a dedicated channel where users kind of provide their feedback, and we just iterate across the board. So any features, any stuff they want, that's something we do all the time. But yeah, to go back to your question, which was sorry, what was the question again?
It was just why is it important to you to continually have that camaraderie of that weekly spaces and educate?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things, right? I think for us, it's been not only building our community, and I think we have a very solid, dedicated, loyal user base. And so they've been around for many years, right? Since the beginning, since we started this, very supportive. But in addition to that, one thing we realized too is during our spaces, during our Thursday spaces, we have other kind of projects join us in, and we discuss everything from ecosystem stuff. It's not just Bitcoin related, but general related, to different project based. We kind of test them and get feedback as we go. And I think that just makes us stronger in general, right? It kind of provides an outlet for users to explore and to kind of see what's out there. At the same time, it makes those projects much more resilient to any sort of I'll take things, so they can test them themselves and whatnot. So yeah, I think for us, building community has been a primary focus since the beginning. You see it during these times, right? Right now, during this time where most of the community has been supportive to us, and the DMs we get left and right. So it's just something great to see, and it's going to be a continued focus, right, along with a product iteration. So both will be go hand in hand, which is a very exciting time.
Yeah, and they're fun spaces, by the way. And
Oh, yeah.
you know, so I co-host these. If you guys are looking to get, you know, learn together and just in a relaxed environment, we joke around, we clown on each other. It's funny. Like Alpha Gamer, really great traders in there constantly every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central, and you can find it if you go follow at Ordinal Hive on X. But very, very fun spaces. Okay, so if I'm a builder and I'm like scared because I want to build something, but the bear market is scary because I see all these builders falling off like dead flies. You've been able to survive this entire time. What piece of advice would you give a builder?
Oh yeah, well, it goes back to like, you know, when we first started this, like we had a channel opened, and we first like started asking users like you know, kind of general questions, like whatever you want us to build, just like let us know, or whatever suggestions you have, just let us know, right? And it's been a gradual, like our first version of our marketplace looks zero, like what it looks now, right? It's completely different. And you know, all that was just a process of iterating over the course of time. And so like, you know, how do you survive? You survive by listening to your users, right? Like, you know, we spoke about like, you know, a kind of ME leaving the space itself, and it makes sense for their business. Like I think they're like when you're spread too thin, when you're focusing on too many ecosystems and a period like this hits, like you have to kind of reinforce where you're good at. And so for us, like, you know, it's been like, you know, reinforcing the specific marketplace where we're good at. Obviously like listening, having close ear to the community, to like, you know, the users themselves, and just iterating around that. But like, you know, that's just a very ample advice in general for any project. That's just like build around your power users, build around, you know, people who are loyal to you, which goes back to community, right? That's why community is very important, right? You have that sort of loyalty, and you know, that trust that you build over the course of time, like, you know, kind of pays off in that sense. So yeah, I think, you know, some of the advice I definitely suggest or kind of reiterate is, you know, kind of want to listen to your users and just build the tools that they're asking for.
Yeah, but how do you not go broke?
Oh, I mean, that's like another thing too, right? It's like there, and again, like what Magic in doing is like something that most companies do, right? It's like you can have a course about this and discuss this, but like you have to reinforce where you're good at, and like kind of let go of things you're like not good at, and that means expenses, right? If the expenses far exceed like the revenue you're making, then that's bad. So like, you know, having a lean approach. Our team is pretty good, solid. So like we have a pretty solid team, not too big like other teams. We're pretty good mixture of like experience and, you know, different stuff like that. So that's one thing there. And then obviously like, you know, the users using our platform helps a ton. So like some of the things we always kind of consider is like, if we build this stuff here, or if we build this specific product here, like will users use it, right? So like, you know, one thing you can sort of count your costs, see if it's going to be effective, see if like, you know, bring volume. If it doesn't, then like there's no reason why to build that. And it goes back to like, again, having a good sense, a good ear in the market, having a good, you know, sense of ear with your users and stuff. So you limit like, you know, the build, you limit like the stuff you don't need, you kind of get rid of the excess fat and just like kind of build lean and build fast, and just kind of, you know, see if that gets traction. If it doesn't, then, you know, kind of restart the process over again. But yeah, I can talk like hours about this specific course.
Yeah, but I mean, you've done a great job. That's why, you know, I think it would help people just to kind of realize that runway is so important, how you manage it, because it can be the difference of success or failure, right? And you always have to plan for the worst case scenario. And if you don't, then you'll end up being kind of one of these companies that falls off, which, you know, sucks, but that's kind of how the market is, right? So, all right. What last question, and I got a big question for you.
Yeah.
So second to last question here. So what do you see the future of the Bitcoin ecosystem? Like, you know, there's all this BIP 110 mess, but then you see Casey Rodimer coming out, just kind of reinforcing, hey, I'm not going anywhere. That gave me confidence because he's quiet, you know, usually. So for him to come out and say that, and he's a pretty stubborn person, I would imagine from what I've seen. So he's not going anywhere. But what's your perspective on it? Like, is this something that we're gonna, you know, we have conviction in over a long period of time, or do you think it's just gonna be? How do you see the future of it?
Yeah, you know, with the BIP thing and stuff and whatnot, like regardless, like the existing stuff that exists is bullish, right? Like the existing communities and collections and whatnot. There's been talks about it like happening many times before, and you know, like I think they're doing it this time around because there's not as much noise as there was before. You you tend to have different sort of like sentiments in different markets, right? So I think they're seeing that now, and they're trying to like push for that and take advantage of that. But regardless, like, there's like, if any community has been or has shown to like be very resilient and build in the most dire circumstances with the most barriers involved, is definitely Bitcoin community.
You're 1000% right on that.
Like who would have thought that we would have built like with just a Taproot like addition and segue and like a couple of updates in 2019, like during that time, who would have thought like because of those things we had NFTs and fungible tokens, right? Like it's the inventiveness, creativeness that exists. So like even if that happens, I have no doubt like there will be a way around it. We'll find a way around it ourselves. Somehow like there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way, right? And another thing too is I do see projects kind of like bringing smart contracts on Bitcoin or building that sort of facet as well. So like that's quite exciting. There's really exciting projects, and we host a lot of these projects on the Thursday space, right? Shameless plug, but like you guys are all welcome to join in. It's an open space, right? So like obviously,
yeah, it's not a shameless plug. I'm a part. I co-host it.
It's right. And everyone is more welcome to come up on stage, and you don't have to be invited to come up on stage. You can come on your will. We give everyone an equal chance and opportunity to speak. But some of the things that people have spoken about with like AI agents, right? Like the next kind of agentic kind of zone or marketplaces and stuff. So that would be kind of exciting to kind of see how it unfolds and manifest. We definitely have some updates around that. And so like, yeah, those kind of things are, if you ask me, quite exciting. And, I mean, like if there's any place that you want to build, it's here, because they'll test your limitations and definitely test your creativity of what you can and cannot do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, the builders here are very resilient. I don't think any ecosystem has taken a beating as much as Bitcoin to where they're continually just, pushing forward, right? And so I love it. I mean, there's definitely builders that leave, sometimes in a short period of time if they don't see a return quickly, but the ones that stick around, right? They're really here. They're in it to win it, and that's what makes me feel like this is the hands down the best collectibles chain. There's no competition with all of the attributes with that. And then obviously we know it has the most liquidity in terms of value, right? So it's just a matter of time when things start connecting together, and I think that's what the whole point is, right? But let me ask you this. So first of all, do you want to kind of showcase the site, or is that something you want to do right now, or do you want to wait on that? Because my question has to do with, I feel like Ordinal Hive is positioned to take that top spot to be the marketplace. But what is your kind of sales pitch for that?
Well, I think like the best sell page is like just test it out, right? If you like it, you do. If you don't, you don't. Again, like just reiterating that point, like the reason like you and I like started talking quite a lot recently, and even supportive of us, is because you tested the marketplace, right? You've seen you use it yourself, and among others. And I think like you see the vision, you see the approach we're trying to do. It's always like kind of seeing what's out there, test it yourself. I feel like in a way I'm a bad and good salesman, like by in the sense that I don't show enough the product. Rather, I like the product itself show itself. So like just go there, go to a website, check out the NFT marketplace. We also have our swap, and just see like kind of what we're doing, right? We deploy updates almost every week, right? Whether it's like specific fixes or specific like pushes for features. It's all based around the user's input, right? So like we do have a dedicated channel on Discord where you can provide feedback. We can open a ticket if you want to be anonymous about it. So like, yeah, like, as someone who's loved Bitcoin, that's the key goal there. Another thing too, like to discuss is liquidity. Obviously liquidity has dried up like in the space, right? And that's not something that, it's not like an elephant in the room, something we can't untouch, right? Like I think it's the truth. It's like liquidity has dried up. You have to be kind of in a way crazy to even like continue doing this. But for us, like we have a specific vision we're trying to reach, and like obviously like position ourselves in a time like this is perfect. In addition to that, like getting users to not only use your product that you built for so long, it's quite motivating, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest sales pitch is that you guys are going to be here no matter what, right? Throughout the tough times, and you've shown that, right? If you know, you guys, this is the website. It's at ordinalhive.io, app.ordinalhive.io. If you are interested in the fungibles, you can just go to ordinalhive.io and click on the fungible side. But you can list your asset directly on Ordinal Hive. You can look through here, all the sales volume, the price floor. It's really easy to use and it's really sleek. And if you have suggestions, I would say join that space on Thursday and come up and speak up and get, you know, familiarized with the community. Because I'll tell you, it's really good camaraderie on that show or in that space.
Oh yeah, it really is. And if you even have complaints, you're like, oh, your platform is shit. Like, come up, talk with us. Yeah. All right, we don't judge, we don't care. We have one really. I'm gonna plug in Norbert here. But okay. Norbert, I love Norbert because he's very realistic. He's very logical, and he provides a very like kind of truth-based analysis and specific things. And you know, yeah, like he's mentioned for many months now, like Fonzie, you're crazy, keep building here because like Kuwait is dried up, and that's something that we don't know. Like, you know, obviously Magic Games saw this, many other projects seen this, many other projects pivoted across like cross-chain and doing stuff like that. Regardless, like there's always going to be some form of attraction. And, you know, for us, it's not only that, but like, how can we utilize that? How can we use that and build something greater? So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And again, if you guys are interested in the fungible side, you can just go to the swap here and you can trade for BRC20s, I believe is what it's connected to, right?
That's right. Yeah. There is, like recently, and I think this week particularly, like there's been sniping going on, especially when it comes to BRC20s. So yeah, we'll make an announcement about that. But yeah, there's the swap component, there's empty component, and then we have a couple more updates coming later down the road. But yeah, that's pretty.
I'm getting bullish about BRC20. I'm hearing about a lot of projects that are building within that protocol. So I think there's going to be some exciting announcements, but that is one of the kind of the reasons why I'm like, okay, I'm hanging out here because I'm connecting with genuine people that have stuck here, but also look at the people that are continually building. BRC20 could have gotten abandoned a long time ago. You know, Ordi has a big Eastern community and they continually built for it. Runes has their community they're building for. They're still building. And then you have the ordinal side of things to where, you know, you have marketplaces like yourself as well. What would you say is the you know, if you could pick one exciting thing that's coming up for Ordinal Hive, what would you say that would be?
I think we'll reveal this more tomorrow, but like our partnership with Big Noodle, like they've been such fantastic guests on our show and your show as well. Yeah, we've had discussion talks, and like I think what they're doing is pretty cool. I think agents, it's something we've always discussed, and like, yeah, like that's been something that we've sort of tested, played around with. So that's more info to come regarding that, but that's keeping me excited for now.
Yeah, for sure. And then you got Superfan saying, "Oh, spaces, the space is excellent. Everyone should tune in each Thursday. Yes, Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. I will be there as well." And then myself says, "Same. My last DCA was in BRC20s." So,
same.
So, do you feel like BRC20s is starting to build momentum right now?
I think what Business Law has done, like they've continuously pushing the product forward. Like it's hard to really tell. Like we just gotta look at the on-chain stuff, right? Like liquidity has dried up for sure, like across the board. But I think they're like from more of a community focus, I've seen there's more talk around BRC20s, more talk around that itself. It's using the Easter phase 2. So I don't know yet. Like I think I still need to like kind of assess more of like what's on chain, what's the liquidity saying, and then make a decision over that. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like the time where you want to kind of explore and test different things out. So
yeah, and I think that's kind of not from what you just said, but like I hear that a lot. Like liquidity is dried up in the Bitcoin ecosystem. I'll hear it from somebody else, right? And I get where the statement's coming from, but I think it's a little unfair because liquidity is dried up everywhere. You know what I mean? I mean, if you look around, yes, there's Solana has some meme coins that, you know, will run here and there, but the pump fund sector has gotten hit huge recently. Mm-hmm. And then Tau has some subnet stuff that's going, but still it's not that much crazier than it was if you look 4 months or 5 months ago. So it's really the entire alt market is dried up. So whenever people kind of pinpoint about the Bitcoin ecosystem, I just think that look at where the builders are sticking around still and where they're continually putting their resources to, whether that's time or liquidity. Because at the end of the day, you know, $6 billion, I don't know if you knew that, but $6 billion was the peak of the on-chain economy for the Bitcoin ecosystem from 2023 to 2024. So that's pretty crazy.
I remember that. I remember that was where Bitmap was like at 3 something. That was
300 bucks.
Yeah, it was like 360 something. It was crazy. It was like the peak. We all, I think at one point in time we all thought it was for sure going to 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did for sure. I had quite a bit of bitmaps, and you know, I think most of us that when did you get into Ordinals? Was it early 2023?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the people that were paying attention, most had some sort of good return. You know what I mean? I feel like you had to be really bad, or just like your brain wasn't working for you to lose if you were in that early. But yeah, I'm excited because I do feel like really it's going to come back. Stana says Nats. Is that something that you've ever crossed your mind? The you know, the non-arbitrary, I think, what does T stand for? Non-arbitrary tokens. Yeah, token. There you go.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that?
You know, I'll admit, like, it took me a minute to really understand what that is.
Yeah.
But once I understood it, like, it made sense. I can see why there's like a very good community around that itself and movement. But yeah, like I think, you know, when it was, I mean, during that time, like, I think when you're early and kind of you might not was coming up, that's something you just had to get, like, you had to buy some just for the culture.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I still like hold on to them. Yeah, I just gotta figure out which wallet it is. And by the way, like, I just realized that you have to, and you gotta do this, but like you have to like remove all your assets from Magic Eden wallet.
Okay.
That's the point. But yeah, I gotta figure out.
Wait, can you explain that a little bit, because like, so the audience understands. So do you mean if you listed something, you got to remove it?
Oh, I believe it's a Magic Eden if you have your assets on Magic Eden wallet.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, just like transfer them out and stuff.
Gotcha. So that's you know, an announcement for you guys. If any of you guys have any of your assets on Magic Eden wallet, take them out, transfer them over to an Xverse or another wallet there. I did hear something about you know, you might need to create like a collection or a something collection for your assets or something like that. Is there some sort of technical things that like collection founders have to do if it's indexed on Magic Eden or something?
Yeah, they're called galleries. You would have to galleries. Yeah, and that's kind of like a new form of. Actually, LifeFlow is one of the ones he's building our marketplace around that, and so yeah. So LifeFlow, that's how you pronounce it. I always call him like LifeFlow.
I always call LifeFlow.
It's a tongue twister. So yeah, that has to happen. I think right now most of it, like the images and data and space and collection data, like Magic Eden has access to that. They should open source it, to be honest, and just give it out to like people. But yeah, like that's just something that's gonna be more of a narrative of play. Not much of a play narrative, but like at least something that the community will probably end up pushing more of. But yeah, integrating those galleries and having on-chain officially.
Yep. So make sure you guys are taking care of that. And then Prime Mindset says, why would I need to transfer out of a Magic Eden wallet when I could just import my seed phrase to a new wallet app? I think you might be able to do that, right? But they're going to discontinue the wallet. That's where I think the problem is, right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can import the seed phrase. I guess that works too. But yeah, I think
before they just do it before they discontinue service or something.
Yeah, I need to read. I need to read their entire thread on that, but I know there's discontinued their ETH version, Bitcoin version, wallet version. I'm not sure if there's anything else they're doing. But yeah, I think they have a lot. They've had like I don't even know. Like I think they pretty much are just keeping Solana. I think so.
Yeah, no, I think they're getting rid of their wallet and totally, and they're just going to service Solana NFTs, which is crazy to me, but that's why I think they're going hard into the gambling thing. And then the last thing here is San says, does Bitcoin need a security budget? I'm curious about your opinion with that. You know, you're obviously here in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Do you think there's like an issue that's happening? Miners seem to be having an exodus to AI and all this stuff.
Well, like we've seen before, especially when it was very hot, like these kind of assets and people were trading on chain, block space like filled up with fees. Like that kind of took care of like the narrative, like, oh, what happens once like new Bitcoin won't be minted or mined. Does Bitcoin need a security budget? I think like again, like you need to run a scenario like a couple of times, but like in essence, like there would need to be an incentive for miners to keep operating, right? Like you just can't be operating without like just simply cost no profit. Like at that point, it's just like, what's the incentive, right? What's the point of doing that? So I feel like there needs to be for sure. I'll align it more towards incentives. Like there needs to be an incentive for miners to continue mining, and if it comes to the point where like it becomes unprofitable, then that's when you should be concerned, right? Because like, you know, we explained early on, like companies, right? Like some of them survive, some of them don't. It's like you can't be running a company down to the ground with just like expenses all the time and no profit, like no revenue. Like that's just not ideal, right? Eventually, like you're gonna have to like, you won't have enough resources to continue. So as long like the incentives have to be aligned for sure, like there needs to be something that miners like could look at and, you know, keep their mining rigs and like their electricity bills, you know, paid and whatnot. So yeah, I think that will solve itself. I think that's been something that's been kind of discussed many times before. There's like, you know, like game theory around this. There's also like, you know, the notion that Bitcoin price increases over the course of time, which has been the case. So, you know, that sort of like at least gives miners enough reason to continue doing what they're doing. But yeah, if it ever gets to a point in time where like these miners are paying more for, you know, like there's something coming out of it, then that's when we should be concerned.
Oh, I mean, some of the smaller ones were at one point, and that's why they discontinued, and only the giants really continued on. But I agree. I think there needs to be more of a like cultural, I guess, like incentive that's not monetary that attaches to it. Eventually it will be monetary, right? For example, like processing all these transactions that we pushed through during 2023 and 2024, but also just kind of like accepting that with open arms. And I think that we go through this situation to where the maxis come out and say we don't have, you know, all this stuff, and then like it's just, and then eventually it happens again. It happened with Counterparty in 2015. Now this time is different because $6 billion versus I think it was 500 million. Counterparties was at the top. $6 billion is the reason why they're still builders, in my opinion. I'm not saying they're all here only for money, but that on-chain economy proved that it can be extremely strong and robust. And I think it repeats, and eventually we'll have a continuous market here. So.
Oh yeah, I agree. There's this one, it's called Parasite Pool, that's been like on my feed for some time. I need to like, that's OMB, right?
Yeah, one of the guys from OMB's community spun that up. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they had like a block they mined recently too, so that was quite cool. Yeah, I'm checking them out more, but yeah, Parasite, it's called Parasite Mine Pool, if you guys don't know about, but like, yeah, it's done by like people who are in the OMB community, so you know, they're quite loyal there.
Exciting stuff. Myself says undervalued, hard to acquire assets plus persistent demand equals high probability of future appreciation. That's why I'm telling you guys, early inscriptions, rare sats, these type of things. But all right, Fonzie, I appreciate you hanging out with us all here, and you know, you guys definitely got a treat from him. So love to give you the mic one last time.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, appreciate having us up here. Again, I'm really bad shilling, so like the best way I say it, just, you know, kind of try the product itself. Like you can import your listings, list at, you know, price, and just know there's like options, right, other than the match game that you can kind of go to. So, you know, that's been like in existence for some time. And then also, like, you know, if you haven't already, just, you know, join our space on Thursdays. We talk about everything, and if there's a particular topic you want us to cover, like we obviously like more than happy to, you know, cover that and just comment down there. So that being said, like, yeah, appreciate you having me up here, Yagobi. Love your podcast, your spaces too, and yeah, happy to come, like, you know, discuss the market with you anytime as well. So that's always
awesome. Well, I'll do the shilling for you guys. Go to ordinalhive.io, use the platform. It's amazing. You can use it for BRC20s, you can use it for ordinals. No one else better that you could support than someone like Fonzie that's been in the ecosystem for over 2 years. So you got to support people like that. Appreciate you, Fonzie. I will see you Thursday.
Sounds good. Cheers. See you guys.
All right. Awesome. All right. Love having Fonzie on the show. Love interacting with them as well. You know, I tried to catch him when I was at the F1 event in Austin, but missed him that time. But can't wait till the next time we link up in real life as well. And you got a lot of comments coming in at the end here. Stan says, thanks, guys. Superfan says, thanks, guys. Great episode. Bull Run 2026. I don't want to say that anymore right now until if we recapture the 100-day moving average. You guys know how I feel about that. I will probably use the B word, the BR word. And Superfan says, yes, and Stan, definitely. Yes, they are communicating down there. All right, we're going to hit on a couple other news topics before we end the show here, but that was definitely a great segment. And as I mentioned, I co-host every Thursday with Fonzie. The Ordinal Hive space is called Buzz Bitcoin. A lot of times you'll see the big noodle guys there. Follow them at Ordinal Hive on X at 1 p.m. Thursday. Join the spaces, get educated. We'll learn together. All right. So let's jump into a little bit of other news. I'm going to hit on some AI stuff real quick. So this was the Openclaw thing that kind of really shocked me here. Let me try to find this for a second. But anyways, as you can see, it says Openclaw hits 249,000 stars on GitHub, overtaking React. So that's JavaScript, React, Linux, and Python to become number 13 most starred list. I mean, if that doesn't tell you where we are as a society in this pivotal movement, the people that are interested in developing software and stuff like that, right? Not the public, now it's not all developers, because there's a lot of vibe coders like, myself. I've gotten into this, but people that are interested in that, they are running to this, right? So you still have like so much time before the billions of people that are here on this earth figure out how to utilize this, right? So I think that's a pretty big number there. 250,000 stars. Maybe it's agents that are hitting it. Stan says, damn, y'all give you in Austin. Didn't that? No, so I'm not in Austin. I'm in Dallas, Fort Worth, but Austin's only a 3-hour drive there. But anyways, 13 most starred list on this entire list. You can see right here. Openclaw comes in number 13. React, Linux, Python. Those are extremely popular. Linux is an extremely popular system. Python's an extremely popular system and language. Yeah, so definitely huge news there. Get on it, guys. Learn the AI stuff. I'll tell you that it's going to be important. And then you got JP Morgan coming over here with Jamie Dimon, which I hate to bring him up because he is always negative on our space. Where is it? Anyways, Jamie Dimon says AI will eventually lead to workforce reductions. He says the upside is huge, from shorter work weeks to medical breakthroughs, but warns AI could move too fast and trigger. So like for me, when I hear this, like it tells me learn AI. There's a free certification course that Claude is putting out. Anthropic is putting out. It's free. It won't probably be free for too much longer, or eventually once it becomes very, very popular. But I'm going to do those because I can just add those to my skill set, right? Yeah, we might see a little bit of that before it gets better, though. That is the thing. And so we got to just be on top of what the latest information is and how to try to learn together, right? That's the biggest thing here. And this is the last thing I'll hit on here because we've been going for a little bit here. Hyperliquid dominates daily fee chart with 1.6 million. So Hyperliquid back in the lead. They've been in the lead. They never gave it up. But, they've been under $1 million. So this means that interest is coming back in to leverage trading, perps, and futures. So, the market could really show a little bit of a bounce back up here coming up. So that is going to do it, guys, for today's live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I mentioned, I always love having people that care about the space on, and Fonzie is definitely one of those people. Ordinal Hive is definitely one of those projects. So at least go try it out, check it out, right? And no, it's not a paid segment. He's just a person that I respect highly in the space that is continually building here. So with that being said, that wraps up the Tuesday live stream. I will be putting out a members only video this evening or tonight for you guys, since I missed it on Sunday. And then I will be back at it in the morning. But I appreciate you guys. Without you guys, I couldn't do this show. You guys are amazing. You guys continually support the show and me doing this. So I am very, very grateful for that. Hope you guys have a blessed rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you in the morning. Peace.